and steady.
Okay. It's ready. Okay, so you start looking away from the plane, and you get 15 minutes, so make sure you have a stopwatch, start your timer, and let them know. So we come up to the door. First thing we're going to do open this side, and we immediately reach over and open the other side. Oh, thanks. Because that way, if they lock the door from the outside, then you can have it unlocked from the inside. Immediately look for all of your certificates and documents. So grab this from the back. You'll have your flashlight. So we're looking for each section. So general, limitations, emergency procedures, normal, performance, weight and balance. We're going to look for current weight and balance. Make sure it's not superseded. Make sure it's side, right tail number. And check for the other sections. You know, blend PWAS. We'll talk about that after. And if it's all there, put it back. Coming over here. Looking for airworthiness should be on top. 172. Alfa Romeo. So we got our Federal. It's got some older ones in here. And state. Then the next thing we're going to do is take out the control lock. The control lock is a required placard, and it has to be in covering the battery master, so in like this. So we're going to turn our battery on. Then we're going to turn on all of our lights. So we'll turn on pitot, nav, beacon, strobe, and landing light. Then we're going to walk around. So typically we go around back first. Look for your beacon. You're looking to make sure the cap's on there, it's the right color, and that it's working. So over here we have our strobe and our nav light. This is a strobe indicator that you can see from the cockpit to make sure it's working. That's required. Landing light. Same thing over here. Looking for our nav light and our strobe light. You're gonna come over here, and these get hot a lot easier than they do in the Warrior, so you're just gonna use one finger to touch it. Make sure it's not too hot.
Is there a stall horn? Is it the thing you have to suck?
What?
Oh, you don't have to go.
I think it's further out, right? Out there. Then we're gonna roll the seat forward. We're gonna do a wave. So we're gonna start in the back and then move it to the front. So we're making sure the seatbelts are here. Seatbelts work and latch. Same thing with this one. Checking the seatbelt. Make sure it works. We're looking around, making sure the headphone jacks are fine on both sides, making sure there's no cosmetic issues. So all the screws are in back here and up here. This lever down here leans it forward. It should move, so that's what you're checking for. You're also going to come down here. The carpet differs from plane to plane. Let's see. So this one, you're going to pull it up, and there's an inspection panel under here. I'll show you another one in a second. So you want to make sure all the bolts are under there. Checking. These are seat stops bars right here. So these have to be in, or the seats can come off the rails if there is a crash. So the same thing, checking to make sure it's on both sides. And it is. There should just be one for each chair. So see how there's not one over here? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you're done with the back. Come to the front, same thing, we're looking under these carpets. So these are inspection panels. This is a friction tab, so you would call this friction tabs removed. If there are more than one, you'd call however many there are. If it was totally missing, you'd call that. If it's open, look inside here to make sure that there's nothing stuck in there, because sometimes they stick things in there. Same thing, checking over here. And then it's okay if you make a mess for a pre-flight, they'll fix it after you're done. After that, we hop in. Oh, geez. And we're going to continue our wave from the back to the front. So we're up here checking for our visors, checking our air intakes. So these are different. Check, make sure there's nothing in each one. Checking our dashboard. So up here, my pen. Making sure these defroster vents open. So I think this side's broken. Checking to make sure there's nothing on the compass. Sometimes they'll stick like a magnet or something on here. And that these have to be legible. So if it's unlegible, you can call that. So that's the deviation card. Then once the dash is finished, we're going to start over here. So things that you're gonna be looking for is that each thing has a knob and twists, that none of these levers or pointer things are broken off. Everything moves like it needs to move. When I say memorize speeds and stuff, I memorize usually 1 or 2 speeds. So like VNE, so that way you know what VNE for the plane is. So if they totally switched out this gauge, you would know right away. Looking in the tanks, making sure that nothing's wrong with that. Amps, checking for that. Your primer should be locked in. Then we're coming down here. Circuit breakers have to be legible. If you had an emergency, you'd want to know what it's for. So if this 5 was worn off, that would be a call. These have to be legible. When we come in here, we're also going to pull cabin air, which is already pulled in this one. It opens a door on the right over here. Can't see it. Another thing we'll do is we'll trim nose down. So put all the trim down. And then same thing, checking to make sure these move. None of the knobs are like loose. In the Cessna, these actually pull out, so you can switch the smaller knob and the smaller digit, so that's okay. This is required to be in the cockpit, whether you know or not. So hand mic's an easy call. Your fuel shutoff valve is down here. This is a required placard. Maneuvering speed's a required placard. Down here it talks about spin recovery. This is a required placard. Day, night, VFR, IFR. Let's see. This isn't required, but if it's there, it should be there later. Let's see. I think that's it in here.
To do anything with the flaps?
Yeah, they should be down. I didn't want to hit you with them because you're right there.
Okay.
So yeah, usually when you do the lights, you'll flip them on. There, you're out of the way. And anytime you turn on the power or anything like that in pre-flight, you call it.
When you're like finding these things, do you like write them down?
No, you say them out loud. So if you're like, okay, there's a magnet on the back of the compass. The altimeter knob is broken off. Something they do a lot is they take this flap lever off. And then they'll say, don't touch the flaps. They'll sometimes have you leave them down. So then you don't really realize it because you're not moving right. Yeah, then you're going to be looking up here. So the way I do it is I move this chair all the way back. And you kind of have to get like, this is definitely I can build videotape, like up underneath. So you're pressing to make sure your brakes work. You'll have your flashlight back here. You're checking like, there's tubes back here and brake lines. You're making sure they work. All your rudder cables and stuff are back here. Is that rain?
Great.
So yeah, we'll look at this with a flashlight one day and get underneath here and show you. But I'll keep walking you through. Watch your head on the floor so you go out. Okay, so now you're gonna check the window. Our other window doesn't work on this plane. So this is required to be there. The handle needs to be secure. Then you're checking for the trim on the door, so you're reaching around it. Over here is the serial number and stuff. It'll differ from plane to plane. But if it's here, check it and make sure you memorize these numbers or write them down when you look at the plane originally. And then I take pictures of everything. But as soon as you're done with this,
Wait, do you take pictures whenever you're looking at it the first time around?
yeah. We consider this like, yeah, I'll talk you through it later. Jesse always said, drop it like it's hot. You immediately come out, checking down here. This is your fairing. Basically a fairing is anything that attaches to the plane. So that's like helping you with your parasite friction and stuff like that. So you're checking on here, it's really dirty, and making sure all the screws are tight. The steps are there. They only have one screw, don't be confused because there's a hole over here. Coming over here, checking the brake line. So over here is a safety wire. Safety wires should look like Z's, not S's. So make sure it looks like a Z. So see this? So basically when you tighten one, you tighten the other. checking brake pad, make sure nothing's wrong with, ooh, little spider. And there's no brake line. If you see brake fluid or anything like that on the ground, you would call that, say like brake fluid, obviously it's red. Hold your head again. And then same thing, we're coming over here. There should be a cotter pin here. So see this pin?
Mm-hmm.
So that's there. All these bolts, there should be like 3, I think. Yeah. And then check to make sure your valve cap's on. Sometimes they'll let you push the plane. So you push it to make sure there's no bald spots. Sometimes they'll put a little tape or like a Post-it note on the bottom that says bald spot. Or sometimes it'll just be flat and then you can't move it at all. As soon as you're done with this, you're gonna duck out in here. I'm gonna open this. Use the big button. Pull this. This chain is required. This is another placard that I was talking about is required. So when you're in here, you're gonna do the same thing. Flip the carpet back. There's inspection panels. There's a friction tab missing. Each plane's different, but our ELT's up here in this hat compartment. So you'd take the lever off, or the cap off, and check it. We don't do that today. But the ELT also has a required placard. Also gonna be lifting up under here, checking for inspection panels. And then there are required tie downs. So like right here, here's one. There's one up there, one down there, one down there. So I always feel to make sure they're tight. After that, you're looking to make sure your tail's right. It's really easy to change this to an 8 with like yellow tape. Each seam you have, if you come down here, there's drain holes underneath. Look here. This one's really hard to see and it's really dirty. So you're checking for those drain holes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I look on the first side, so if I forget, then I can check on the other side. It's the same thing. Checking for your drain holes. You're checking this bearing, making sure nothing's loose. You get points deducted if you go backwards. So if you forget something, try and find another way to check it later.
Okay.
Same thing, checking screws over here, making sure this is smooth and not torn. This has our serial number painted on down here. A lot of them will have like a metal piece on here.
What happens if you don't know what it's called and you're trying to like say?
Think of something, and then if you don't, come back to it. So a lot of times they'll stick rags in here. So not only are you going to be looking for things that would cause it to be unairworthy, you would be looking for stupid things as well. So like sometimes they'll put in fake snakes and stuff. So we trim down, which is why this is down now. So you're checking to make sure that it actually goes down. Otherwise the trim could be put in backwards. So if you trim down, make sure it goes down. Checking in here is a ground wire we're looking for, making sure it's not torn. So see this right here.
Mm-hmm.
Static wires, same thing. If there's a hole, check it, make sure there's nothing in there. This is a little bit different than the Warrior. You kind of come down here and you have, this is what controls your rudders back here. So you're looking for these cotter pins. This safety wire ties it on. And it should rotate through like this. Okay, this is a tie down ring. It's really easy to remove. If you ever see a hole back here, that's usually what it is. This plane's kind of hard to see just because it's such a dark color. But if you look up here, see this right here?
Yeah.
It's called a bell crank. It kind of looks like a C or like a banana shape kind of thing. So basically the bell crank is what moves this up and down. So on both sides, there's going to be pins that keep it in. So I'll show you on the other side. What do you know what these antennas are? VOR antennas. So make sure those are there.
Do
they're
the
not
wires
broken.
have them?
Yep.
Oh. Wow, I've never even paid this much attention during a pre-flight like ever in my life.
Yeah. So you're looking in here, more cotter pins. Looking at your static ports, the grounds. So these are counterweights here. There's like a piece of wood in here. So we'll look at those in the wing as well. Checking in here again, making sure there's no like cracks or dents on the front of the wing. Any inspection panel you see, check it, make sure the screws are tight. We'll drop down here, there's an inspection panel on this side. Same thing, we're gonna check over here.
But each plane's different though, right? So like, Will like the one at preflight be like this?
It'll be pretty similar,
Okay.
yeah.
And you get a look at it ahead of time.
Yeah, this is an ADF supplement antenna. If it's on there, it'll be required. If not, then it's not a thing. Don't worry about it. ELT antenna, make sure it's there, it's not broken. Sometimes they easily like lift them off. Same thing, looking at the tail over here, making sure they didn't change anything. If you forgot any seams, now is when you check them. So then we start back here. Looking at the top, making sure it doesn't move. It should be locked in. These up here are friction tabs. So call if any of them are missing. Checking these inspection panels. And then we're gonna walk on the outside. Checking to make sure nothing's wrong here. That's for it. Now is when I check these. There's screws on top that match like these ones. So you feel both of them. I kind of run my hands like this, but it's really dirty. Checking the lights. It's really easy for them to switch the color of the light. So think right is green. Then we come over here, and you should always be really careful about this no matter where you are. So you're gonna hold this aileron up, and up here more counterweights. There should be 3. So checking to make sure all 3 are there. We're checking the holes up here, make sure there's nothing stuck. And then if you're ever reaching in your hand in here, make sure you have another one up here. When you're around the pre-flight plane at competition, be really, really careful. Because it's so easy for someone to be in that plane moving like the yoke, and you being out here looking at something and then them potentially hurting you. Checking inspection panels. Same thing, looking at these nuts and bolts. And this side of the flap, we're checking to make sure these bolts are locked in. This is a push-pull rod. It should have a little twist to it. Same thing over here. Now at this point, this is when I go back inside on the other side. If you forgot anything in the cockpit, this is your saving grace. You'll be able to look back through it. So let's say we remembered everything because we're awesome. Now, not in this plane, but you'd open the window, check it. Same thing, check this door and the trim. Check this dorsal and fairing. Checking the wheel, checking that safety wire again. Looking for this cotter pin and those bolts around. So let's say everything looks good. I'm gonna keep coming around. We always talked about we tap. It's easy for them to like open an inspection panel and pop like a wrench in. So if you would hear like a rattling noise, that would be that cause. Coming out here, ooh, that's gross. The wing, making sure nothing's wrong with that. Up here, it's really easy for them to take out one of these inspection panels because they're like secretly hidden. This is another fairing. Up here's your other mooring rings, your tie-down rings. So checking all of that, checking to make sure nothing's damaged here. If there's a step here in the beginning, when you look at it, there should be a step here at the end.
And you're allowed to take pictures in the beginning.
Yep. Same thing, checking these inspection panels. When I get to here, this is the time where I usually sub. So you take it, come back, and sometimes they won't have you sub. If they do, sub it. That cabin air like thing I told you about that we pulled inside is this. Okay, let's say they had a sump, but they don't want us to put the fuel back in. So step up. Up here, there's a placard. Okay, this placard's required. It's got the types of fuel and the quantity. When you look at this fuel cap, this chain's required. It should be attached. And if you look under here, there's vents. Those should be unblocked. While you're up here, you're gonna look down the wing, make sure there's nothing on the wing. You're looking at these antennas. These are both your comms antennas. So if there's only 2 comms, there'll only be 2 antennas. If there's 1, there'll only be 1. This is the back of that ADF supplement antenna. So checking the other side, we'll hop up on the other side, but just show you from up here. Now is also a good chance to look at your windscreen. So if there's any cracks or fake cracks, you'll see it now. Here's that. Then come over here. This is gonna be hard to show you, so it'll be easier to look later. I'm a weenie.
They don't have a thing that lifts up.
There we go. So, oil is going to be something that it'll be placarded on here. So it says 7 quarts on here. It's really hard to see. If it's not there, it'll be up here like the Warriors. So checking your oil quantity, just like you would normally. So it's at 5, so it's a little low.
Is that, would you call that though?
No, it's either gonna be like empty or,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
5
fine.
sign, yeah. When you look in here, you're looking for the same things. We can go more in depth with it, and I'll find pictures of the engine. But you look inside, make sure nothing's wrong. There's certain placards that you can look for in here, but we really can't see right now. So next thing you do is you're always looking around at the same time you're doing other things. So we're going down, we're checking these screws at the same time. Oh. Okay, down here, these are really hard to see into. But we're checking the shimmy dampener, making sure it's attached with a cotter pin and a bolt. These are the torque links. These are what actually causes you to turn on either side. So making sure those are secure and locked on. Checking for the same thing, more cotter pins over here. Checking your tire pressure. This strut's a little low. You should be able to fit 4 fingers in between here. I would probably call it it's a little low, not say like it's super low or anything. Down here, these are boots. They're what keeps the linkages clean and covered up. Those, if there's any tears, those are calls that you can do. Yeah, same thing. We look back here, there's more cotter pins. Checking the exhaust pipe, I've seen them write crack on it before in chalk, but I usually sound it. If it sounds flat, that would be an issue. There could be a crack, but it should ring. Watch your hammer getting up. Yeah, like this screw's loose.
That's not good.
So same thing we normally check. Sometimes they can add an extra line of tape, and that affects your propeller and aerodynamics. So same thing, we're checking to make sure they're on the same, they're same as when you started. Sometimes I've switched them where it's a flat edge on the ends, like the Warriors, not rounded like this. So one will be rounded and one will be flat. And just like we do, move it. Okay, you're gonna come in here and you're gonna be feeling for the spark plugs. So you're wanting to make sure they're attached. There's nothing like ridiculous they put on under here. They could put like, I've seen them put like an E6B or a wrench on top. So you're feeling on top, making sure those
Are you allowed to, like,
spark
pull
plugs
it
are
out?
attached. No, just leave it. This is your alternator belt, so you want to make sure it's tight. Make sure there's no wear on the starter ring. You're going to be looking down here, make sure there's nothing in there. You'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're looking down here. I'm going to feel up. So checking spark plug attachments, making sure nothing else is on top. Can you feel them? We'll look at the specific engine number because they number what cylinder it is. So like sometimes it's from the pilot seat, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes it's from the front, depending on who makes it. So we'll look into that. Then we're looking at our nose cone too, making sure all these screws are latched on. Coming down here, checking your landing light. This down here should have no holes. So this is like an air intake. And it shouldn't be burned or like gross, otherwise it'll need to be replaced. I think this is when Becca hit her head, so be careful if you're around here. Pop up, come around. Same things we're checking over there, making sure these screws are all tight. Drop down, check the other side. This should be a quick check just because you looked from the other side already. Come over here, static port. It's really easy for them to cover up, so feel it. If they don't have you sunk, now's the time you'd hop up to the other side and check the fuel up there. If not, you can come over. So we're checking this fairing, the step, pitot tube, make sure none of this is blocked, so drain hole or intake. Checking these. This fuel drain's really easy, just put a cap over and you forget about. Another fairing, more inspection panels. Checking your stall horn. Chris actually has something that you can like, it's a plastic piece you suck on and it makes the noise to make sure it works. And then the rest is fairly the same, so I'll do a quick walkthrough. Coming out, taking this side, come down. We already checked this wheel. Checking up here, I forgot this on the other side. These are really easy screws to remove. Just checking to make sure it's tight. After that, coming over here, checking your flap. Inspection panel, looking up here, making sure the bolts are tight, push-pull rod's good. Counterweight, another ground wire up here. And then coming to the outside, so we need to check this wing to it. So then get over here, inspection panels, friction tabs, and this is where you call time. So you stop. Cool.
Cool. Thanks.
It took me longer than 15 minutes, but I was
So
talking
you
you
was
through it.
explaining every single little
And coughing. Yeah, when you're there, you can text me pictures of anything. I might try and fly up for like a day and then like help you out if I can. Yeah, basically the biggest thing is you're gonna have to get used to timing yourself. So how I would do it is I would just come out here whenever I have time, start at the front, start my stopwatch, and go around through the whole thing. And basically, like if you just did kind of what I did, where you're talking yourself through what you're looking for, then you'll know. Are you still videotaping me? Then you'll know like about how long it should take you. So when you leave the cockpit, usually I leave around 7 minutes in. So then you have 8 minutes left to walk around the rest of the plane. The cockpit's where the tiniest little things are going to be found. But making sure you're on a time. So if you're at 7 minutes and you're still in the cockpit, still looking for stuff, it's time to get moving. Because if you don't make it around to the whole plane, you lose points for each part you miss. So.
Okay, but how's it work? Like, so even if you find everything, but you lose a bunch of points for like, or like say you like find like 10 things or whatever, and someone else finds 10 things, and you're like those are the two highest or whatever, and
So then it goes based on your times.
So do you want to be faster?
Yeah, so you want to be faster,
So
but
you have 15 minutes, but you don't need to take all 15
I
minutes.
use 14 to 15. So you want to use most of your
what's
time.
the max time?
15.
Okay.
So at 15, they say stop. I use 14 to 15 minutes because at 14, you still have time. So if you beat someone or tied with someone, but you beat them by a couple seconds, good for you. But also you want to make sure you're using the time like efficiently and you're actually looking at everything. So if you just run around in 7 minutes and finish, but you didn't get like a high score, then it didn't matter.
But what if like, okay, so it goes based on how many things you find first.
Right.
So what if like someone found like, how many things do they do?
It could be up to 70.
70?
Yep.
Jesus Christ. So okay, say someone found like 40 things but took like 15 minutes, and someone found like 39 things but took 7 minutes.
It would be 40 over. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's score first, and then it's based on your time. Okay. I'm gonna put the flaps back up. Watch your noggin.
Now, how'd you just do the flaps? Like, what'd you turn on to?
Just battery.
Just battery.
So I don't ever worry about the alternator. You just turn on battery. Same thing for the lights over here. So usually what I do is they'll verify if they don't want you to put the flaps on. So I come in, I usually hit the battery master on, hit my lights, walk around, then put my flaps down. Before you hit the battery master, you have to say, turning on battery master. Before you move the flaps, you have to say, moving flaps. Another thing I forgot to tell you when we're in the cockpit is you're also going to move the controls. So you want to make sure they move freely and that they're going in the right direction. So if you forget, remember your thumb points towards the aileron that should be up. So this side's up, that side's down. So moving these to make sure it swings freely. But yeah, so battery master, lights, walk around, shut off the lights, then hit the flaps down. Cool?
Cool.
What else you got for me?
So you can, okay, so like they give it, you get a look at this plane before they bug it.
Right.
and you can take as many pictures as. Is there a time limit, or can you go back multiple times and
You
look
can go
at
back
it?
multiple times. I like me and Dylan would sit in the plane together and be one with the plane. we, I mean, like we were both nationally ranked, so obviously it worked. We would literally just sit in here and talk about things and things we noticed. When you're looking at stuff with the plane and you're looking with Becca, you need to be secret if you find stuff. So if you saw that those boots out there were ripped, you need to be like, Becca, the boots are ripped. So I always took my iPad and made a note section of things that were already wrong, so previous issues. And then I took all my pictures on my iPad. And then I think I like shared them with her, or not with her, with Chris or Dylan at the time. I have some old old stuff from like an Ohio State regional that I can send to you of like things that they've done and stuff like that.
But they don't. What if? Okay, so what's the average if they always do like they bug? Like, is it different every time? Like,
It's different every time. It depends on who's doing it.
So there could be 70, but is there usually 70?
The last couple times there's been a lot. They usually do as many as possible because they don't expect you to find every single one, but they want to give you like a variety of things to find. So like maybe you found that this altimeter knob was missing, but someone else found that this screw is missing. So then it kind of averages out with like.
So like if like bigger things or littler things aren't worth more points, then so everything's just like worth the same.
Yep, just a point. If you make bad calls, you lose points. So if you're not sure, don't say anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
So okay, so if I'm like, I think like they changed this, but they didn't really change it, then you lose points.
Yeah.
And if you backtrack, you lose points.
Yeah.
What else do you lose points
Also
for?
affects your team score. So basically,
Wait, do me and Becca have a team?
You don't have a team score, but basically they score you guys off of each other's flow. So if you start going backwards and doing stuff all willy-nilly that Becca didn't do, it's going to affect Becca's score too. So your flow should be almost identical.
But you taught her flow.
So
Okay. Do they deduct points for anything else besides backtracking, flow, and?
if you do things that are dangerous, you can't run. Kershaw runs.
You cannot run. Okay.
Don't run. You can do a brisk walk. If you do anything dangerous, you'll be DQ'd. So that's why I said make sure you call before you move any controls, because you never know where a judge is going to be. They kind of wander. You also need to kind of speak up. So say I'm like in here underneath looking at this brake, and there's a cotter pin missing back here. You need to say there's a cotter pin on the brake missing. They're out here trying to write stuff down. They don't want to be right here next to you and get in your way, but it's hard to hear for them. So
Okay.
definitely be speaking at a voice loud enough, and they might say something if you're too quiet.
If they don't catch what you said, will they ask you?
Yeah, sometimes at the end they'll say, okay, around this point you've said something, but we didn't hear you. And then you'll be like,
And is it one at a time? Like, are you by yourself?
yeah.
Okay.
And usually they give you the option of if you want to watch or let someone watch. Since I was kind of in charge, I always watched other people and let them know like what they needed to work on, at least for regionals, not necessarily for nationals, but that way I could like help you improve. Derek, I think, was able to sit on them last time. I don't know if he did.
That made me nervous.